www.wadr.org. WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's big day in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Côte d'Ivoire apologizes over death of Burkinabe activist Alino Faso amid disputed suicide claims.
For diverses raisons, nous amenons.
For various reasons, we sometimes bring certain people to this detention center. So you can understand from this moment that we are sensitive to the grief that may affect his parents and loved ones. We are sorry for this death.
Central Sahel states set conditional agreement on counter-terrorism collaboration with ECOWAS.
The two sides have agreed to work on conditions that will facilitate collaboration in the area of counter-terrorism.
Malian government adopts a national charter for peace, and Liberian government orders prayer for peace and prosperity amidst economic challenges. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is a more edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Côte d'Ivoire, where the Ivorian government has apologized after the death of Burkinabe web activist Alain Christophe Traoré, alias Alino Faso. It's been a week now since he lost his life at the gendarmerie school in Abidjan, the capital. While the Ivorian authorities speak of a suicide, the Burkinabe authorities reject this theory and speak instead of an assassination. According to Côte d'Ivoire's government spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly, the government will contact the Burkinabe authorities in the coming hours. Here is an excerpt of the government spokesperson Amadou Coulibaly during the Council of Ministers.
Pour diverses raisons, nous amenons.
For various reasons, we sometimes bring certain people to this detention center. This is primarily to ensure their safety. And in the case of precedents, you should know that we can, thanks to decisions by the prosecutor, keep certain people in detention throughout the proceedings. So the investigation was ongoing. Alino Faso was in detention in the Gendarmerie Academy. For the rest, we stick to the press release from the public prosecutor. This press release from the prosecutor is quite clear. We are a serious country and the prosecutor remains a sworn person, and his statement is very clear about the circumstances. We don't see why asking for more transparency than that would call our institutions into question. The head of state has succeeded in establishing all of our country's institutions. After all, we have diplomatic relations. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs will certainly contact the Burkinabe diplomatic authorities for the next step in this matter. But for now, we are sticking to the statement from the public prosecutor, which was sufficiently clear about Mr. Traoré's death. So you can understand from this moment that we are sensitive to the grief that may affect his parents and loved ones. We are sorry for this death, but I want to say that everything was done according to standards.
Nous sommes désolés pour ce décès, mais je veux dire que tout a été fait dans les normes.
Ivorian government spokesman Amadou Coulibaly is speaking there. Well, staying in Côte d'Ivoire, where political parties are reacting to President Alassane Ouattara's recent announcement of his candidacy for the October 25 presidential election. The Ivorian president declared his candidacy on Tuesday, pledging to ensure peaceful, democratic and transparent elections. However, the announcement has drawn sharp criticism from opposition parties who have denounced his candidacy as unconstitutional and a threat to the rule of law. Several prominent opposition leaders argued that President Ouattara is attempting to run for an illegal fourth term, having previously been elected in 2011 and re-elected in both 2015 and 2020. Well, Christopher Teacher completes the story.
Former Speaker of Parliament Guillaume Soro, now an opposition leader in exile, was the first to react to President Ouattara's announcement. His GPS party calls President Ouattara's fourth-term presidential candidacy a slap in the face to democracy. Guillaume Soro's reaction was followed by former Prime Minister Pascal Afin-Gizan, president of the Ivorian Popular Front. Afin-Gizan denounces Ouattara's re-election bid as a flagrant violation of the country's fundamental law.
How can he explain today that he is still trying to find shelter in Nkatirimbana? It has become a problem. He divided the Ivorians. He imprisons people all day long. He destroyed our relations with the sub-region. It has become a problem for Côte d'Ivoire, and this problem must be solved.
Additionally, the Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire, PDCI, which is the main opposition party led by Tidjane Thiam, speaks of a new attempt by President Ouattara to force his way through the presidential election. Simon Doho is vice president of the PDCI.
This personal project of Mr. Ouattara, which has no ambition for the Ivorian population, wants to impose itself in contempt of the law and the given word. It constitutes a direct and serious threat to social peace and institutional stability of our country.
Meanwhile, the PPACI of former President Laurent Gbagbo is calling on Ivorians to mobilize against President Ouattara's candidacy, which it believes violates the constitution. Damana Pikas, the secretary of the PPACI, says,
this fourth mandate is in violation of the Ivorian constitution. That's why we want to reiterate today, firmly and solemnly, our position on this fourth mandate. We ask all our bases, all our comrades, all the people of Côte d'Ivoire to mobilize and not be impressed.
It should be noted that the constitutional amendment in 2020 ushered the country into a new republic. It therefore allows President Ouattara to run for a new term, which opposition and other analysts consider a fourth term.
A report from WDL's Abidjan correspondent Marcel Arisso-Blair and voiced by Christopher Aticho. Now, away from Ivorian politics, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has confirmed that the Central Sahel states have agreed on conditions for future collaboration in the fight against terrorism. The announcement was made by ECOWAS Commission President Dr. Omar Touré at the inaugural ECOWAS Sahel Governance Forum underway in Banjul, the Gambian capital. Leaders from across West Africa are attending the forum, to where regional security and cooperation are taking center stage. WDL Sankri Janko is covering the forum and now report.
Speaking at the Sahel Governance Forum on the way in Banjul, ECOWAS President Dr. Omar Touré announced that despite their planned withdrawal from the bloc this September, the Sahel states, namely Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, have agreed to explore continued cooperation with ECOWAS on counter-terrorism efforts.
The two sides have agreed to work on conditions that will facilitate collaboration in the area of counter-terrorism.
Dr. Touré said until a new agreement is reached, citizens from both sides will continue to benefit from existing regional agreements, including cross-border movement.
Until a new agreement is concluded between ECOWAS and the member states of the Alliance of the Sahelian States, the status quo remains with respect to the free movement of people and trade within the region.
He also revealed that the three countries have expressed interest in remaining members of certain ECOWAS agencies, indicating a willingness to maintain some institutional ties despite their broader exit.
The three countries have also indicated their intention to remain as members of some of the ECOWAS agencies, such as GIABA in Dakar and the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development based in Lomé.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Special Envoy for West Africa and the Sahel, Leonardo Santos Simao, described the region as at a crossroad, underscoring the critical importance of good governance.
The Sahel stands at a crossroads of partnerships, cultures, aspirations, and historic choices. We gather here today because we recognize the need for fresh thinking. The voices of our citizens, especially our youth, demand governance that ensures peace and stability while delivering dignity and hope.
The inaugural Sahel Governance Forum, hosted by the Gambia and supported by the UNDP and other international partners, brings together top diplomats, former heads of state, and civil society leaders to address the pressing challenges facing the Sahel.
Sankle Janko with that report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, the government of Mali has taken a bold step towards national healing and stability. On Wednesday, the Council of Ministers approved a new National Charter for Peace and Reconciliation, a document designed to guide peace building, social cohesion, and governance efforts across the country. The charter, presented by the Minister of Reconciliation, comes after Mali officially withdrew from the Algiers Peace Agreement in early 2024, calling it unsuitable for the national context. That move led to a major inter-Malian peace dialogue earlier this year, where the drafting of this charter was a top recommendation. The newly adopted charter sets out a vision for a sovereign, peaceful, and reconciled Mali grounded in national values like forgiveness, honor, and a culture of dialogue. It recognizes traditional forms of conflict resolution, supports civic education and transitional justice, and seeks to rebuild trust between citizens and the state. Meanwhile, the Central Sahel region of Burkina Faso is experiencing shockwaves from a latest terrorist attack that left several army personnel dead. A military base in the northern province of Bolsa was targeted by armed insurgents on Monday in a devastating assault. According to officials and local residents, the attackers looted the base and set key infrastructure ablaze before withdrawing from the area. Abdullah Hassan has the rest of the story.
According to testimonies from a local community leader and several residents, an attack on the military base in Jago, a town in the northern province of Bosa, left at least 50 people dead. Witnesses reported that a large number of armed men arrived and launched a violent assault on the base. As of this Thursday, the exact number of soldiers killed remains unconfirmed. Burkinabe authorities have yet to release an official statement regarding the incident. However, the terrorist group Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslim JNIM is already suspected of being behind the attack. The assault on Jago underscores the growing security instability in Burkina Faso. In recent months, JNIM has escalated its operations across the Central Sahel, resulting in numerous civilian and military casualties. In response to the worsening crisis, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger have formed a confederation aimed at strengthening their collective fight against insurgency. The three Sahelian states have established a joint force of 5,000 troops, which is expected to become operational soon, with the goal of conducting coordinated operations to restore security in the region.
Abdullah Hassan with that report. In more matters of conflict, let's turn our attention to Nigeria, where deadly communal violence in the Federal Capital Territory has left at least 2 people dead and dozens homeless. The latest clash in Gwagwalada, one of the 6 council areas that make up the capital, underscores the persistent tensions between herders and farmers. It is a crisis that continues to threaten peace across West Africa's most populous nation. From Abuja, WDL's Usman Umar report.
2 people have been killed and at least 31 houses set ablaze following a violent clash between Fulani herders and Gwari farmers in Gurfata village, located in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. The conflict reportedly began as a dispute over access to farmland between a Fulani man, Shehu Adamu, and a local Gwari farmer identified as Saadu. Adamu Yusuf, special advisor on security to the chairman of Gwagwalada Area Council, explains how the situation escalated.
The crisis started yesterday by a case of mischief. The Fulani and their cow invaded one Gwari farmland. As they were eating the crop, the man went there to challenge them why, and immediately they massacred his face. That is, the farmer died instantly. They rushed him to the hospital and he was confirmed dead. This morning, the chairman of Gwagwalada Area Council delegated a team to Gurfata to bury the victim. That team was led by the Speaker of the House, including myself, the SS Security. After the burial, we went to the Chief Palace and we are dividing communities. Everybody should be calm. Our getting back, we had another call that one Gwari man was killed again on the same farm.
Tension rapidly increased following the initial disagreement. Alhaji Wakili Madugu, chairman of the Mieti Allah Association, a socio-cultural group of the Fulani people in Abuja, told WADR that While full details of the incident are still being gathered, efforts are underway to de-escalate tensions.
He's now telling me that I should tell you that the people that went there for the resolution, they have not come back. So when they come back, maybe you'll be able to hear from them.
Meanwhile, security forces, including the Nigerian army, have since been deployed to the area to restore order. The farmer-herder conflict fueled by land competition, climate change and population pressures remains one of Nigeria's most persistent security challenges. Experts warn that without inclusive dialogue and sustainable land use policies, such violence could escalate and spill into other regions. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Elsewhere, the Ghana Armed Forces have launched full-scale peace enforcement operations in Baku and surrounding areas following a directive from President John Mahama. The presidential order comes in response to renewed violence that has claimed several lives, including a traditional leader and 3 senior high school students in the Upper East region of the country. This unrest stems from a long-standing chieftaincy and land ownership dispute in Baku, primarily between the Kusasi ethnic group, who regard themselves as the indigenous inhabitants, and the Mamprusi ethnic group, who claim majority residency. Well, despite the latest intervention by the government, a pressing question remains: will there be lasting peace in Baku? Sorry Albert, a journalist in the Upper Eastern region of Ghana who has been following this crisis, provides answers to the question.
Over the years, we have seen people who used to live and work in Baku leave the town and go to settle in other parts of the country. In fact, in Bolgatanga, which is the regional capital where I live, a lot of them have moved. People who used to live in Baku have moved to Bolgatanga, to Navrongo, to basically other places where they can settle and be safe from the conflict. And so, yes, a lot of migration has taken place. There are people who used to live and work for the state in Baku, and they have negotiated transfers and left to other places because of their own safety.
With this redeployment of military troops in Baku, is there hope for a lasting peace in the region?
I personally covered the deployment of the extra men yesterday, just before they deployed to Baku. You could see that this time the state again is trying to do something to try and deal with what is going on in Baku. But as to whether it is enough to handle the situation once and for all, it's a difficult question to answer, because every time it appears things are calm in Baku, before you realize there is ongoing violence again. And so we have to wait for some time to see whether this recent deployment is going to make any difference. But as far as, deployments and previous actions taken by the state are concerned, it didn't seem to permanently deal with the matter.
Sorry Albert is a journalist in the Upper East region of Ghana. Meanwhile, the Ghana Education Service GS has temporarily closed 3 senior high schools: Baku Senior High School, Nalerigo Senior High School and Zarungu Senior High School, following a wave of violent attack that left several students dead and others injured, as well as school properties destroyed. The incident, which occurred between July 20 and 26, have severely disrupted academic activities and sparked national concern. In a statement issued by the head of public relations, Daniel Fenyi, the GS condemned the violence in stronger terms, describing the attacks as deeply distressing to students, staff and families. The services extended condolences to the bereaved families and assured the affected school communities of its full support. Well, we now turn to digital affairs with a spotlight Togo, where an international forum on personal data protection concludes this Thursday. The 4-day event, which began on Monday, July 28, brings together representatives from data protection authorities across Benin, Burkina Faso, Mali, and the host nation, Togo. Augustine Kole reports.
Participants of this forum include digital content creators, lawyers, researchers, and experts, as well as students and other connected citizens. Karin Tete Benisan, a content creator who is very active on social media, said she is constantly exposed to issues related to the protection of personal data. As data becomes increasingly valuable, Karim maintains that its exploitation for malicious purposes is constantly increasing.
Not more than a month or two ago, around 16 billion passwords were found on the dark web, and many people didn't know that their password was already out there. When I heard about this forum, I thought it would be a good opportunity to share more, to learn more, and to look for solutions because there is a lot of anarchy.
The digital revolution in Africa, fueled by the rise of artificial intelligence, has raised many concerns about security and personal data protection. The level of cyber attacks remains alarming, according to Clement Domingo-Sac, an ethical hacker.
Le niveau de cybersécurité et donc des cyberattaques.
The level of cybersecurity and cyber attacks in Africa is not good. For many people, it does not exist because we do not talk about it as much as we talk about football or other things. There have been reports made by agencies that show these exorbitant cyber attacks. There's a new thing that's revolutionizing all of this. It's artificial intelligence, AI. So if we don't do anything quickly, we won't be in the right direction by the end of 2030.
In this context, it is important to examine the legal frameworks in place to regulate these issues. Ameyeno Siram, a lawyer and member of the organizing committee of the Forum on the Protection of Personal Data, said certain legal provisions already exist in Togo to regulate the digital challenges.
We have several laws, but the main one is from October 20, 2019, the Law on Personal Data Protection in Togo, which sets the overall framework. There is a law adopted in 2012, which was amended in 2013 in this sense. There is also a law on cybercrime, so we have to recognize that there is a fairly dense legislative activity in Togo in terms of protecting personal data.
As a reminder, Togo, like several African states, has consented to and ratified the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity and the Protection of Personal Data, known as the Malabo Convention, a framework that should be adapted to the current contexts and challenges.
Augustin Coley with that report. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Cote d'Ivoire apologizes over death of Burkinabe activist Alino Faso amid disputed suicide claims. Central Sahel states set conditional agreement on counter-terrorism collaboration with ECOWAS. Malian government adopts a national charter for peace. And still ahead, Liberian government orders prayer for peace and prosperity amidst economic challenges. We don't have the press review, a guest interview, and sports brief. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
We're streaming live on wadr.org. In Liberia, citizens and foreign nationals observe a national day of prayer and fasting aimed at fostering reconciliation over the country's past and ongoing challenges. The national holiday was declared by President Joseph Boakai as part of the country's 178th Independence Day celebrations. In his proclamation, President Boakai also urged Liberians to seek divine intervention into the civil crisis that left deep divisions among the population. He called on citizens to pray for lasting peace, national prosperity, and the well-being of all Liberians.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
Well, Nadia Today in Accra has a newspaper review for today.
Greetings, you're welcome to the Newspaper Review segment. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. Boko violence deliberate. President Mahama directs peace enforcement. Also here, Bank of Ghana drops policy rate to 25%. Now to the Ghanaian Times newspaper front page. Food prices decline. Some consumers in Accra yet to feel it. Other stories, renewed Boko killings act of sabotage. President Mahama and will not tolerate shoddy works, Roots Minister says. The Chronicle newspaper front page, $1.7 million worth of gold seized from Burkinabe by NACOG and handed over to Gold Board. Other stories here, Educhum is a best candidate for the NPP, says Odike, and Anodompre advocates for climate-smart farming. The Daily Guide newspaper front page, Atuesian gets 10 million Ghana cedis, bail pending appeal, and soldiers punch. Joy FM reporter slap witness at McDan warehouse demolition. That'll be it for the newspaper review segment. Is back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Nadia there.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Well, in this segment, we're staying in Ghana as the Education Service says it is exploring various options to ensure the safety of final students in Boku and its environs following the closure of at least 3 senior high schools after 3 students were fatally shot. Students were evacuated amidst rising insecurity, prompting health groups like the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association to call for the withdrawal of health workers from the area over safety concerns. Our guest is the PRO for the Ghana Education Service, Daniel Fenyi.
Beyond the evacuation of the students, we continue to engage the stakeholders, especially the district, the regional directorate of education, the school leadership of education. Even today, we still have another meeting on these developments because it appears these are developing issues and stories, and so we continue to monitor. But at the moment, what we can assure stakeholders and the public is that we have 2 categories of the students. We have one, the Form 3 students. Their case is quite peculiar because they have WASI ahead of them. In fact, in the next coming week, we expect that they will sit for the examination, the WASI examination. And so we are brooding over 2 options or alternatives. Number 1 is monitoring the situation to ascertain whether peace will be restored by the close of the week. If we ascertain that peace and calm are restored, then we might consider having the students back on campus to sit the examination. But if situations remain unstable, then we consider alternative examination centers where we could take the student to write the examination. We are doing this in strong collaboration with WAEC. They have several examination centers across the country, so we might take the students out of their campus for safety and then have them write their WASI in other centers. So that is one category of the student, the final years.
To be preparing for WASI and finding yourself in this situation, the toll it's going to have on these children, how would they be in the right frame of mind to even write the exam? All right, so quickly, we have already accepted that this experience for our learners is very traumatic, especially as you rightly put, with the Form 3s who are going to write the examination, having to see their own colleagues in blood shot down, dead in front of them. It's a very, very traumatic experience. So what we have done is that we have strengthened the counseling unit. The schools have counseling coordinators, and the districts also have counseling coordinators. So we are strengthening these counseling coordinators to be present for the students, especially through this period. And then the second category is the Form 1 and the Form 2 students. For them, 2 alternatives are under serious consideration now.
PRO for the Ghana Education Service, Daniel Fenyi speaking there. In sport, this afternoon, basketball, it will be a familiar rivalry between Nigeria's the Tigress taking on the Lioness of Cameroon in the quarterfinals of the 2025 Women Afro Basketball. The Tigress waited late on Wednesday night to know its opponent in the last 8 after the Cameroonians defeated Angola convincing 85-64 points to further confirm the struggling state of Angolan women's basketball. The Nigerian girls are heading into today's game well rested and refreshed after 2 days without a game, enjoying the advantage of finishing first in its group. And in football, the victory celebrations have continued in Lagos as the 10-time WAFCON champions, the Super Falcons, paraded their trophy through the streets to the cheers of enthusiastic football fans. Still riding high on the wave of national recognition, including a presidential honor and generous cash rewards, the triumphant Super Falcons touched down in Lagos on Wednesday afternoon. And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Umbudan Yugo for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, Instagram, @WDL English. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship environment program, Enviroscope. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Nibe County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and